What if I told you that there was an MLB pitcher who only used a single pitch? One that every player knew was coming, but no one could hit. Well, that pitcher was Mariano Rivera, who managed to become the greatest closer of all time using just his signature cutter. And with that pitch, he managed to win 5 championships, become a 13-time All-Star, and even earn a spot in the Hall of Fame. But what made his cutter so effective? And how did he use it to become the legend that he is today? Well, to really understand his story, let's go back to the beginning, when he was born on November 29, 1969. Rivera was raised in a small fishing town in Panama with no water and no electricity. His father was a captain for a fishing boat, and Mariano would work by his side almost every single day. But still, he would always make time for sports. When he was 18 years old, Rivera joined a local baseball team, where he was given the opportunity to pitch for the first time in his entire life. And despite having no experience, Rivera was dominant, throwing 7 innings without giving up a single run. And it was thanks to this incredible outing that he would end up signing with the Yankees just 2 weeks later. But of course, he knew that he had a lot to work on if he wanted to be taken seriously. In the summer of 1990, Rivera made his professional debut in the Summer League, recording an insane ERA of 0.17. But despite an incredible first season, he later admitted that he was struggling in his new environment, saying this: "It was the first time I was apart from my family for an extended period of time. I did not speak English, and everything was in English, so it was very difficult." To make things worse, he suffered his first major injury in 1992, causing him to miss a significant amount of games. Nonetheless, Rivera kept fighting, putting up solid numbers at every level. In fact, by the time he made it to AAA in 1995, his fastball had increased from 87 to 94 miles an hour since signing. So it didn't take long before he was called up to MLB. But what he didn't know at the time was that the real journey had only just begun. Rivera made his debut as a starting pitcher for the Yankees in May of 1995. But after only 4 appearances, he had already given up 18 runs, and the team had no choice but to move him into the bullpen. Though it quickly became obvious that he was much better as a relief pitcher. By the end of that season, his fastball was suddenly reaching up to 96 miles an hour, and Rivera was finally starting to make some progress. During the postseason, he was able to pitch 5 innings across 2 games without allowing a single run. So even though the Yankees ended up losing in the first round, his performance under pressure had proven his potential. In fact, one sports writer even described him as a future star that could stand up to the most stressful situations. So, with a renewed sense of confidence, Rivera would have an incredible season in 1996. During a 12-game stretch in April, he would pitch 26 consecutive innings without giving up a single run. The Yankees would finish first in the AL East, and throughout the postseason, Rivera continued to prove himself. Their first matchup was the Texas Rangers, and in games 2 and 4, Rivera shut them down without allowing a single hit. And after defeating the Rangers, the Yankees were set to face the Orioles in a best-of-7. But thanks to an insane offensive performance from another rising star, Derek Jeter, New York was able to win in just 5 games. So, for the first time in 15 years, the Yankees were headed to the World Series to face the Atlanta Braves. Throughout the series, Rivera would make 4 appearances, allowing just 1 run. And despite the Braves taking games 1 and 2, the Yankees managed to win the next 4 in a row, emerging as world champions for the first time since 1978. So, after spending years fighting for a spot on the team, Rivera had finally proven himself. But in 1997, everything would suddenly change. During the offseason, the Yankees would let go of their previous closer in favor of Rivera, but with the added pressure of this new role, he would struggle towards the beginning of the season. In just his first 6 opportunities, Rivera blew 3 saves, saying that, "I don't know what's going on. I'm trying my best." It was obvious that something was off, and he was about to figure out exactly what it was. Throughout his entire life, Rivera had always thrown a 4-seam fastball, which had little to no movement. However, he later recalled a specific moment during a warm-up when suddenly this was no longer the case. All of a sudden, the ball started moving, cutting, in a way I'd never seen before. I wasn't doing anything different, yet it had a life of its own. I was petrified. I had no control of the pitch.
This was my 4-seam fastball before the quarter appeared, before the Lord gave me the quarter. This is the same grip that I threw with the quarter. But now this pitch no longer was straight no more. Now this pitch is moving.
The pitch would start out similar to his normal fastball, but at the last second, it would suddenly move as much as 8 inches across the plate. And as you can imagine, this made it extremely deceptive in the eyes of hitters. Over the next few weeks, he would start mixing in what would later be identified as a cutter, and with the help of this new pitch, he was named an All-Star for the first time in his career. Sometimes, one change is all it takes to make a difference. And today's sponsor, NordVPN, aims to be that difference in your online experience. The internet is filled with sketchy websites and intrusive ads, but with only a single click, NordVPN protects you from online threats. Although this is just one of many features that they offer. For example, streaming services like Netflix have different catalogs of movies and TV shows depending on your region. But when using a VPN, you can actually change your browsing location to another country, allowing you to choose from any of these catalogs. Another great feature is called NordPass, which keeps all of your passwords in one place, notifying you if any of them are at risk. But maybe the best part of all is that you can use NordVPN on all of your devices and you only need one account. So if you're looking for a better, faster, and safer online experience, use the link in the description at nordvpn.com/averagebaseball and get an additional 4 months on a 2-year plan. And don't worry, they also have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so trying it out is completely risk-free. Thanks to his cutter, Rivera put up the best numbers of his young career in 1997, and the Yankees were once again in the hunt for a championship. Their postseason would start off extremely well with 2 victories, putting them just 1 win away from advancing to the second round. But unfortunately, everything would quickly fall apart after a rare mistake by Rivera. In the 8th inning of Game 4, he suffered his first blown save in the postseason after giving up a game-tying home run. This would cause a downward spiral for the Yankees, as only a day later, they were eliminated from the postseason. Rivera was devastated, but rather than dwelling on his failure, he instead used it as motivation.
I didn't take my failures as I was a loser. I took my failures as the Lord is trying to teach me something, or humbling me.
In 1998, Rivera started using the cutter more and more often, and by the end of the season, it had become so effective that he would rarely throw anything else. It was especially effective against lefties, as it would move towards their hands at the last second, often resulting in shattered bats. One hitter described facing Rivera's cutter like this: "It's so hard to explain to people what his ball does, how it moves, and how late it moves. Sometimes you think it's an optical illusion. You know what it's going to do, but you just can't force your body and your hands to go to the right path." By the end of that season, he would emerge as one of the best closers in baseball, recording an incredible ERA of just 1.91. This performance, combined with the talent of rising stars like Derek Jeter, would make the 1998 Yankees one of the greatest teams of all time. And after finishing the season with 114 wins, they were expected to dominate the postseason. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. Their first round matchup was the Texas Rangers, and Rivera saved the first 2 games on the way to a 3-game sweep. So after defeating Cleveland in 6 games, they were headed to the World Series in a matchup with the San Diego Padres. However, this series was pretty much over before it even started. The Yankees would easily take the first 3 games, and in Game 4, Rivera took the mound to close out his second championship. Just like that, New York had swept San Diego, and after winning 2 titles in just 3 years, Rivera had already achieved more than most players ever will. But in his case, this was merely the beginning. Fueled by his recent success, Rivera would have his best season yet in 1999. In each of his final 28 appearances, Rivera gave up 0 earned runs, holding opposing hitters to an incredibly low batting average of just 136. He was the anchor of the Yankees bullpen, and one of the major reasons why the team was able to win 98 games. Once again, the Yankees swept the Rangers and were set to face the Red Sox in the ALCS. But despite Boston's best efforts, they too would be eliminated by New York, earning them their second consecutive trip to the World Series, this time facing off against the Atlanta Braves. The first 3 games resulted in easy victories for the Yankees, who were now only 1 win away from another title. So once again, it was up to Rivera to finish the job in the 9th inning. And after shattering 3 bats in a single plate appearance, he quickly recorded the final few outs of Game 4. Just like that, the Yankees had won back-to-back World Championships, and Rivera was crowned as the World Series MVP. This was one of the most dominant postseason runs of any team in history, and next year they would pick up right where they left off. With the help of all-star performances from Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, and Bernie Williams, the Yankees would cruise to yet another first-place finish. And faced with yet another chance at a title, Rivera emerged more dominant than ever. Throughout the postseason, he would only allow 3 earned runs, and in Game 5 of the World Series, he delivered the final few pitches for the 3rd year in a row. The Yankees had won their 3rd consecutive title, and none of it would have been possible without the best closer in baseball. Because with the exception of 1 blown save in 1997, Rivera had been practically invincible in the postseason. That is, until 2001. Over the offseason, the Yankees signed Rivera to a 4-year contract worth $40 million, and with more confidence than ever, he would have a great year. He was selected for his 4th All-Star game and recorded 50 saves throughout the season, the most in MLB. As for the Yankees, the team managed to win 95 games, making it all the way back to the World Series in a matchup against the Arizona Diamondbacks, a series which many fans assumed would be another easy win for the dynasty that was the Yankees. However, this was far from the truth, as the Diamondbacks would easily take Game 1 in a decisive 9-1 victory. And following a complete game shutout thrown by Cy Young winner Randy Johnson, the Yankees were quickly down 2-0 heading back to New York. But with the home crowd cheering them on, the Yankees would manage to win the next 3 in a row at Yankee Stadium, pushing the series all the way back to a Game 7. And with a 1-run lead heading into the 9th inning, the Yankees' 4th consecutive championship was in the hands of none other than Mariano Rivera. But it was in this moment that those hopes would begin to unravel. After a couple hits and a throwing error by Rivera, the Diamondbacks had suddenly tied the game, and just 3 batters later, they scored the winning run. The Diamondbacks were world champions, and Rivera had suffered his first ever postseason loss. But just like in the past, he was able to find comfort in failure, saying that I did everything within my power to win that game for us. I did my best, and my best wasn't enough today. I can sleep comfortable and move forward. Throughout the next couple years, Rivera would experience some of the best and worst moments of his entire career. In 2002, he would miss significant time due to injuries, but in 2003, he immediately bounced back, posting a career-best ERA. It was during that year that he would have one of his most memorable postseasons yet, completely shutting down the Red Sox in the 2nd round. However, when both teams found their way back to the ALCS in 2004, Boston got their revenge. Now, the Yankees actually won the first 3 games of the series, but following back-to-back blown saves by Rivera in Games 4 and 5, the Red Sox managed to come all the way back and win in 7 games. This would be the only time in his career that Rivera blew 2 consecutive saves in the postseason, and Boston would go on to win the World Series for the first time in 86 years. Nonetheless, Rivera was well acquainted with failure, and next season he emerged better than ever. In 2005, Rivera had what is still his best season ever in terms of ERA, picking up his 7th All-Star selection and narrowly missing out on the Cy Young Award. However, despite once again putting up historic numbers in 2008, the Yankees would fail to reach the postseason for the first time in his career. That is, until 2009. At this point, Rivera was 39 years old, and following a rough start to the season, fans started to wonder how much time he really had left. After all, his cutter was suddenly maxing out around 92 miles an hour, a significant drop-off from his typical 96. But it wouldn't take long before any doubts surrounding Rivera completely disappeared. Starting in June, he would go on an incredible run, saving 28 games in a row and allowing just 3 runs in 40 appearances. He would finish the year with a 1.76 ERA, and it was thanks to this insane turnaround that the Yankees were right back in the postseason. You see, the team had made massive improvements over the offseason, adding players like Mark Teixeira. And with the help of insane performances from stars like Alex Rodriguez, New York would make quick work of their first 2 opponents. So after failing to even reach the postseason just 1 year ago, the Yankees had made it all the way back to the World Series for the first time since 2003. And while the Phillies would manage to scratch out a win in Game 5, they couldn't hold off for long. The Yankees entered Game 6 1 win away from a World Series title, and carrying a 3-run lead into the 8th, it was almost inevitable. Rivera took the mound and quickly shut the door on the Phillies, so for the 5th and final time in his career, he was a world champion. And even though he was now 40 years old, Rivera definitely made the most of his final few years. On September 19, 2011, he recorded his 602nd save, surpassing the previous record for the most in MLB history. And during his final game in 2013, he left the mound one last time to a well-deserved standing ovation. Rivera spent his entire career with the Yankees, winning 5 championships and cementing himself as the greatest closer of all time. So it was no surprise when he became the first player in history to be unanimously voted into the Hall of Fame. And the craziest part of all is that he managed to do all of it with just 1 pitch.
They know that this pitch was coming for 17 years. They knew it was coming. The only thing that I didn't do was tell him verbally, hey, hey, it's coming. And they still cannot hit it.
Amazing.